The most expensive lie in the modern world isn't told on billboards or in political speeches. It's whispered by your own mind when you're exhausted. The lie that says you'll get serious about money later, when life calms down, when the next raise arrives, when the next month feels less tight. Even though the world has quietly redesigned itself, so calm rarely shows up on schedule. Welcome to Money Animate, and if you want a steady stream of stories that sharpen your instincts instead of selling you fantasies, consider subscribing in the same quiet way the wealthy build wealth. One small system that keeps working even when motivation disappears. Because the truth is brutal and simple. Modern life isn't just expensive, it's unpredictable, and unpredictability punishes people who rely on mood, memory, and willpower to manage their future. Inflation erodes the meaning of enough. Rent rises like a rival that wants your paycheck as tribute. Healthcare costs wait like an ambush. Layoffs move through industries like weather, and AI is changing what stable work even means. In that environment, most people keep searching for a secret, a hack, a side hustle miracle, a shortcut that feels powerful without demanding a new identity. But the people who actually build durable wealth don't look like they're chasing it, because they are not chasing money, they are building a structure money can't easily escape. And the structure is made of habits that are almost boring, which is exactly why they survive stress. Because stress destroys complicated plans and leaves only the simplest rules standing. The first rule is automation, and it isn't a convenience, it's a coup against your weakest self. The version of you that appears when you're tired, anxious, jealous, lonely, or overwhelmed. That version does not invest, it negotiates, it delays, it tells soothing stories about starting next month. And next month becomes a graveyard of good intentions. Automation removes the monthly debate, the moment where your bank balance becomes an emotional battlefield between the future and the present. Because when investing requires a fresh act of courage every month, courage eventually runs out. The wealthy don't gamble their freedom on a Tuesday mood. They arrange the transfer so money moves into investments first, before spending, before cravings, before excuses, and what remains becomes the boundary for the month. It sounds mechanical, but it changes the nervous system, because the month stops beginning with a question and starts beginning with a rule. And rules are what keep you steady when headlines are trying to hijack your mind. The second habit follows naturally once you understand that the real enemy is not math. It's leakage. It's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. The world trains people to treat income like identity, as if a bigger number automatically means a better life. But a high income with a high burn rate is just a well-decorated cage. Wealth is what stays after life takes its cut, and life always takes its cut. Two people can earn the same amount and live in different universes. One emergency away from collapse, the other calm enough to say no, calm enough to wait, calm enough to invest when the crowd is panicking. Because saving creates buffer, and buffer creates options, and options are the real luxury. This idea can feel insulting in a world where bills are real and wages often lag behind prices. But that's exactly why the principle matters, because when costs rise, the person who only thinks about earning becomes desperate, and desperation makes bad deals feel like relief. The person who thinks about keeping becomes strategic, because strategy starts with margin. And margin starts with saving. The third habit is the visible proof of that strategy. Spend less than you earn, not as deprivation, not as moral theater, but as control. Lifestyle creep is the soft predator that stalks every raise, every profitable month, every lucky break. Because the moment income rises, the world offers an upgrade in rent, in cars, in clothes, in restaurants, in subscriptions, in treats that quietly become requirements. The trap is that once your baseline rises, it demands tribute forever. Even when you're stressed, even when you're sick, even when the market is down. Even when you lose the job that funded the upgrade. The wealthy treat lifestyle as a dial, not a ladder, and they refuse to turn it up just to impress people who are also trapped. They still spend, but they spend on value, not noise, and value is what remains useful when the dopamine fades. Tools that save time, choices that protect health, purchases that increase earning power, experiences that strengthen relationships instead of performing status. This habit alone creates an unfair advantage, because while others spend their raises, the disciplined person turns raises into assets, and assets are the only employees that never call in sick. The fourth habit is where the wealthy mind separates from the crowd, because it changes how reality is interpreted. Move from scarcity to abundance. Scarcity is not simply having less, scarcity is believing you have less control than you do. And that belief shrinks behavior. It makes people cling to what's familiar even when the familiar is failing. It makes them stay in roles that drain them because uncertainty feels worse than misery. It makes them avoid investing because volatility looks like danger, even when time would have turned volatility into advantage. Abundance, in the wealthy sense, is not delusion. It is the conviction that skills can be built, networks can be strengthened, income can be diversified, and identity can evolve. When someone truly believes that, they stop waiting for permission, they learn new tools, they pivot before they're forced, they take calculated risks, they treat failure as information instead of humiliation. In an era where AI can automate tasks that once guaranteed security, scarcity becomes a velvet trap, because it convinces you to defend a shrinking position instead of building a wider base. Abundance says the only rational response to a changing world is to change faster than it does. The fifth habit is long-term thinking, and most people claim to respect it while emotionally betraying it. Compounding is not magic. It's mathematics paired with patience, and patience is rare because the internet is designed to eliminate boredom instantly. The first years of investing can feel like nothing is happening. Contributions look small. Volatility can make progress look like failure, and the average person quits right before the curve bends. The wealthy understand the early phase is not about celebration. It's about accumulation, buying exposure while time is still cheap, letting the account become strong enough that the same percentage move starts to mean real money. Long-term thinking also gives you armor in downturns. Because when your horizon is wide, daily headlines become background noise instead of commands. You don't need to pretend market drops feel good, you just refuse to confuse volatility with permanent loss. And you build rules in calm seasons so you're not improvising in storms. The sixth habit is starting early, and when early is gone, starting now with urgency. Time is the only resource that multiplies money without asking for charisma, luck, or genius, and that is why it is brutally valuable. The years when responsibilities are lighter are a rare window, because later decades often arrive with higher costs and less energy, family obligations, rising healthcare pressure, bigger insurance needs, career risk, and a shrinking margin for error. Miss the early window and life becomes a catch-up sprint where the bills keep growing, but the money struggles to keep pace. Starting early is not about perfection, it's about momentum, and if early is already gone, the principle is unchanged. The next decade will pass no matter what. And the person who begins now will meet a different version of themselves in 10 years. The seventh habit is the one that protects all the others from being sabotaged by emotion. Deliberate thinking instead of reactive thinking. The modern economy is an attention economy, and attention is harvested by triggering immediate reactions. Panic headlines, hot takes, fear-driven market commentary, flash sales, and social comparison engineered to make you feel behind. Reactive thinking feels decisive, but it is often just anxiety searching for a lever to pull. It sells at the bottom to stop the pain, it buys at the top to stop the fear of missing out. It chases guaranteed returns because uncertainty feels unbearable, and it mistakes movement for progress. Deliberate thinking slows the moment down and asks questions your nervous system may hate at first. What changed in the underlying reality? What didn't? What is my time frame? What is my plan? What risk am I actually taking? What is the cost of acting on fear? What is the cost of waiting? What does evidence suggest instead of emotion? This kind of thinking is tiring, and that is precisely why it works. Because most people choose what is easy and then wonder why life is hard. The wealthy build rules and checklists so their future is not negotiated during panic. And they avoid outsourcing decisions to crowds, because crowds are emotional and emotion is contagious. The eighth habit is deeper than investing and more dangerous than debt, because it governs the meaning of money itself. Work on your relationship with money. Many people chase money the way someone chases oxygen underwater. Frantic, convinced that more will finally calm the fear. But fear is not a number, it is a story. And if the story is that safety lives just beyond the next paycheck, the finish line will keep moving no matter how much you earn. The healthiest wealthy minds treat money as a tool and a responsibility, not as a god. They understand money buys choices, and choices buy freedom, but they also understand money can quietly own you if you build your identity around it. That's why purpose matters, not as a motivational slogan, but as an anchor, because purpose stabilizes identity, identity stabilizes behavior, and behavior stabilizes outcomes. When purpose leads, money often follows as a byproduct of value, and because it's a byproduct, it's easier to handle without desperation. Stewardship creates detachment. Detachment creates clarity, and clarity prevents wealth from turning into another addiction. And now the story tightens into reality, because these 8 habits are not cute tips for a calm economy, they are defenses for a volatile one. Picture an ordinary person living on the edge of modern life, carrying consumer debt that never fully dies, watching prices rise while wages argue. Trying to stay employable while technology shifts, trying to stay healthy while stress slowly eats the body. Everything feels manageable until it doesn't, until a layoff arrives, until a family crisis appears, until a medical bill punches through savings, until a market downturn hits at the exact moment confidence is thin. In that moment, the difference between being financially interested and financially trained becomes visible. The unprepared person is forced into desperate trades, selling investments at the worst time, borrowing at brutal rates, taking humiliating terms, sacrificing sleep and health just to keep the machine running. The prepared person still feels pain, but they are not destroyed because they built their defenses during boring months when nobody cared. Automation kept the future funded without constant willpower. A strong savings rate created breathing room. Controlled lifestyle prevented the baseline from becoming a prison. Long-term thinking reduced panic. Deliberate decision-making blocked impulsive mistakes, and a healthier relationship with money prevented fear-based deals that cost more than they pay. The climax of this transformation is quiet but absolute. The day the calendar stops threatening you, the first of the month stops feeling like a cliff. The bank notification stops making your stomach drop, because there is a system underneath your life, a system that can take a punch. And once that happens, a colder truth emerges, one most people avoid because it strips away excuses. The world doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards consistent behavior. Information is everywhere now, but discipline is rare. And rarity is what markets pay for. The wealthy reduce the number of decisions they must get right and increase the number of times they repeat the same right decision. And that repetition is why their lives look calm from the outside, because chaos has fewer doors to enter. One more thing matters in a world obsessed with certainty. None of this is a promise of results, because markets carry risk and life carries randomness, and no script can know any individual situation. This is education, a framework, not personal financial advice. And if you're making major decisions, your context matters and professional guidance can be worth it. But frameworks still matter, because frameworks change behavior, behavior changes probability, and probability is the closest thing to control most people will ever get. The ending is simple, and it's meant to haunt you a little. Wealth is not built by one heroic moment, it is built by refusing small betrayals of the future. Month after month, until the future finally starts defending the present. Money is not a trophy for being smart. It is a mirror that reveals who has self-command and who is being commanded. Ego demands proof today, but wealth rewards patience tomorrow. And money obeys the person who can stay calm while the crowd is frantic. If you want more stories like this that cut through noise and train your decisions, subscribe and keep walking forward, one system. 1 month, one quiet victory at a time.